independent would you say the judges are currently, and the judiciary at large?
I would say there is independence. I would, you want to, how do you want to describe it, in percentages, or want you? I think there is. I think, as a general statement, there is independence.
And how would you, as Chief Justice, enhance that?
The question of independence is not the issue. As I see it, there is this discussion of, there is this idea that if anyone were to speak or to have a discussion with the executive or the head of state regarding certain matters, it is compromising the independence of the judiciary. I take the view that you can speak, you can be interdependent, you can interrelate with the executive without compromising your independence. But it depends. You need to look at who you're dealing with. You need to look at the character. And I'm not talking about on the side of the executive. The judiciary needs a person who they trust will deal with the matter without having to compromise on independence.
I see. Now, you mentioned that you were a member of the National Steering Committee on
I was.
the fight against corruption. And I'm sure you're aware of the numerous pending cases on corruption which are still pending in the judiciary. The Goldenberg one, which started in 1993, I believe some aspects of it are still in the books. You're now Chief Justice. You alluded to bringing together the stakeholders in terms of collaboration. What are you bringing to the table to ensure that there is expedient resolution of matters corruption in the judiciary?
What comes to my mind, Commissioner Attorney General, was a televised meeting at State House where you attended, and the other agencies concerned with fighting corruption. You attended on behalf of the judiciary, and the other agencies were also represented. And I recall vividly the statement made by the President when he said, "I've done my part. Where are the results?" And, basically saying he had done his part. I therefore, on that, say that it's a question of re-examining the interplay with those agencies that are concerned with investigating, prosecuting, and adjudicating on corruption cases. For far too long has this blame game gone on. And today I want to speak for the judiciary. In my view, the time for blaming the judiciary in that blame game has never come to pass. I believe that the responsibility is still, or the failures are still, with the investigation and the prosecutions. And it is only when enough of those cases have gone through the system that you can apportion some blame to the judiciary. So having said that, the three agencies need to sit down again and stop blaming each other and agree, not to convict, but agree that everybody takes their responsibilities a little more seriously. As a defense counsel, and this comes into play, I have been in cases where cases end up in court and the prosecution is not ready for months, years, and when the big stick comes around as to who is to blame, the judiciary gets hit by it. So that discussion needs to be had in the at the interministerial or head of three arms situation, had three branches of government again. But it's simply something that needs to be revisited. Otherwise, I can see all the targets that were provided a couple of years ago have come and passed.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. But that's only one aspect of it. What about the cases which are actually in the judiciary? Some half done, a quarter done, and they're stuck. You're now the Chief Justice.
You know, on my part, as far as the Chief Justice is concerned, the only person I can call up and get a brief from is the magistrate handling the matter. And I'm not asking him to make up his mind in one way or the other, but I will say, give me a report on this case from A to Z. And you, from that report, as Chief Justice, will be able to see how many times the judiciary failed, how many times the prosecution failed, how many times the investigating officer failed. And when he is not in the room, these are discussions you then have with your counterparts.
So you have perused a report and you can see that the default is on the part of the judiciary in that particular cluster of cases.
Then the action can be taken. If that particular officer is not capable of managing that portfolio, then he might as well move to a different station.
Thank you very much, Senior Counsel. That will be all from me.
And give him some light duties elsewhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, the Attorney General. I now request the Commissioner Gishohi to please ask your questions.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
I'll be brief because most of the issues that I would have raised have been raised. But I have one question. In case you get this position of a Chief Justice, I would like you to enlighten us on how you'll be able to approach that matter. I've also seen from your report here that you are a member of the International Center for Settlement of Investment Dispute,
Yes.
2012-2018. There has been general concern about investment disputes within our commercial codes and tax codes, and also the issue of small court claims court, particularly relates to the small micro enterprises. If you are to get this position as Chief Justice, could you maybe share with us the framework that you will put in place to ensure that you can be able to open up this system so that we can be able to have this money flow to the economy, particularly on commercial codes and the tax code and the small code, claims code?
Thank you, Commissioner. As I see it from where I sit, more and more judicial officers may not be the solution. I think we see that despite the number of judicial officers we are appointing, the backlog is still piling up, more than correspondingly, meaning there's just something. So it must mean that there's something we're not doing right. And it must mean must be another way of doing this so that the commercial disputes, and in particular the small claims that affect the small micro enterprises, is freed up faster. And I see technology, I see digitization being the way forward.
ICT?
ICT.
In what form?
Just the pilot, I have examined the write-ups on the pilot projects. They're all good. But like the one in the commercial court, it is a pilot project. What I'm saying is it hasn't been rolled out. So we need to roll out these systems so that the entire process, end to end, is within the program.
Okay.
So other countries have done this and they've changed their economy. But having more and more officers doesn't seem to correspondingly reduce, one, the backlog, and end these cases. The other thing that I would really emphasize on is more and more court-appointed mediation. I noticed from the write-ups that just by introducing and operationalizing court-appointed mediation, the ease of doing business in Kenya, the standing of Kenya went up. It really helped everything. And court-appointed mediation is a phenomenal thing.
Okay.
Because you are talking about two obstinate people who don't want to concede that they are wrong. But as soon as you clothe mediation with the authority of the court, they then, relax a little, and they compromise on these claims, and they shake hands. And if there are payments to be made, they are released, and so on. So, these are the things that should be
Okay,
promoted.
Honorable Counsel, one of the issues of the concerns is that we concentrate so much within Nairobi, forgetting that 80% of our people in the rural areas have these issues and they need them resolved. If you get the position as Chief Justice, we want to have an idea, what time frame would you be able to have these things in place? I've been here for 1 year, for 2 years, the same thing.
Now, Honorable Commissioner, you've been here for 3 years, and we're still talking about the same thing.
Yes.
And my respectful view about an insider would be that after 5 years, you'd still be talking about the same thing. Why? Because it's not, I don't mean any disrespect, but you're tired. You're doing things, they're not working, and you can't think out of the box. Person who is objective, engages in critical thinking, answer that question. That's a very good question. I will ask them, why haven't you? And why can't we do it in a month?
Okay.
And I will get the answer. And if it is possible, it will be done.
Okay.
But one of the things I propose to do, as soon as, or in the event that I was appointed, is actually tour all the court systems in the country. And when I say tour, I don't mean photo sessions. Really find out what the problems are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me go to my area. That was just by the way. I was to focus into the commission. Jesse, you are the chairperson of the commission. Very candidly and very openly, in your view, what is ailing us as a commission? One thing that is ailing us as a commission that you will be able to address for us to move from the comfort zone.
One thing that is ailing the commission, from the outside, and I will correct myself when I come inside, I think there's too much sitting.
Too much sitting.
With the attendant consequences on finance.
Finance.
Yeah.
So what would you do?
Sit less, be more effective in what we're doing, and revert back to being you're almost a full-time commission.
Okay.
You shouldn't be as full-time.
Okay. There is this same.
The other thing I would do,
Yes.
this is just a view I hold and it's subject to correction. The process of attending to complaints
Oh yes.
can be expedited by being more aggressive on complaints that are touching on criticisms about a decision when matters are, one, pending in court, or the right remedy would be an appeal. So be a little more aggressive in pushing them back. That way you won't have so many complaints, and you can spend your time dealing with the very serious complaints of serious misconduct and proven corruption or establishable corruption, etc., etc.
Okay. I want to address the issue of the human resource, which is very critical, as you said. And also, looking at the issues, I think I looked at your CV. There's a quotation I got there. Efficiency is the cornerstone of an organization.
Yes.
Efficiency is a cornerstone of the organization.
Yes.
On the issue of staff, not the judicial officers, staff themselves. How would you, the question is how, two things would you do to make sure that you increase efficiency on part of the staff?
It's a good question, Mr. Commissioner. I would You know, for example, when I read the strategic plan, I read the state of the judiciary reports, there is this fixation about the, is it called the establishment being 9,000 plus? That is what is there. And then there are only 4,000 or 5,000 people, and therefore there's a shortfall of so many staff. It looks like, yes, somebody is not helping you or somebody is not doing you, but when you're doing things in a certain way and somehow the output is not what you expect, it is perhaps time to look at how much more you can get from those who serve before you focus on that. I mean, I heard, we all listened to the interviews, it arose in another one, where I remember that it was the first gentleman, my brother, who said, why have a 4 or 5 story building in a place where there's no activity? There's no need for that court. So what you have done is you have built the court, now you have to justify it. So you're now looking for staff to fill it, but yet there is no activity to warrant the existence of that court. So from my reading of all these reports, experts abound to advise, but you need to change the approach in advising these in seeking opinions of these experts. Stop asking them, how do we grow into the biggest and the hugest and this and that? Just start asking them, how can we now maximize with what we have? Then grow progressively.
Okay. We have various directorates within the